prices immediately, you'll start to see that, right? And so I think people at home, that's what they want, right? Lower gas, and also petroleum products go into everything that we use. So it's not just filling up your gas car. It's duct tape, it's glasses, it's paper, it's a computer, it's laptop. I mean, you name it, right? Everything is based on petroleum.
The incoming Trump administration is making preparations to implement a tough new border policy, including mass deportation of illegals. A video of a border agent speaking to a 3-year-old child who was alone at the border has now gone viral. But incoming border czar Tom Homan says this is nothing new.
No, I've been talking about this for 4 years, about the inhumanity of that border, about how many children die, whether in the desert or in the river. Since Joe Biden's been president, we got nearly 4,000 aliens that have died across this border. Children die almost every day. Children get sexually assaulted. 31% of women that make that journey get sexually assaulted. And this administration has been hiding it. This is something we're going to address. We're going to show the American people exactly what we're doing on the border and why we need to do it.
President Trump is quickly filling out his cabinet and promising to shake things up when he takes office. And in true Trump style, it's a transition unlike any other.
It's being described as a hostile takeover in business terms, meaning the new administration is coming in without the permission or help of the outgoing team. So far, Donald Trump has not signed 3 standard agreements used to facilitate the transition. That means, for example, newly nominated Secretary of State Marco Rubio has not been to or talked to anyone from the State Department. Bob Vander Plaats of the Family Leader says Donald Trump learned some valuable lessons the first time around.
It's Trump being Trump, but at the same time, I think it's one of those once bitten, twice shy. And he's been, way more than once bitten, so he's multiple times shy.
Trump was new to Washington in 2016 and leaned on the wrong people to recommend his team. That led to fierce headwinds his entire 4-year term.
His first term, he saw a bureaucracy that wanted to reject the will of the American people in electing a duly elected president. So they just wanted to undermine him. Now he's into a lot of things different, that he's in charge, the bureaucracy's not in charge.
Vander Plaats says this time around is different.
He's really had an opportunity to think about how does the swamp operate, he and his team. And they're going to put people around them that are loyal, but they're going to do things their way.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
The TSA says it expects this Thanksgiving travel season to be the busiest yet, despite a planned strike by workers at the Charlotte airport in North Carolina. TSA Administrator David Pekoski says he doesn't expect the strike to impact TSA operations.
It won't impact what we're doing, but we work really closely with the airports and with the air carriers to make sure that we're all coordinated to be able to handle any unexpected things that happen during the course of a given day.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Keith.
Streaming.afa.net has now become AFA Stream, and you can find it at stream.afa.net. You see, we removed the letters ing. Our experts have determined that eliminating those 3 keystrokes, multiplied over hundreds of thousands of AFA Stream visits, could reduce the national debt and maybe increase the gross domestic product. AFA Stream, formerly streaming.afa.net. Improvements to the economy are purely theoretical.
Welcome to today's issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Today's Issues. Fred Jackson here, along with Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
And good morning.
And Alex McFarland joining us from the great state of North Carolina.
Good morning, everybody.
Good to have you. And Chris Woodward from the AFR Newsroom.
Good morning.
Good to have you guys.
Now, Fred, are we going to tell anybody, we're going to tell our audience that we did not plan this?
We did not plan this?
And those that are listening have no idea what we're talking about. But those that are watching know that we all are matching.
Yes, yes.
Everybody but Alex. But
yeah, we're in the green.
That's right, we're in the green. We did not plan this, but we are matching.
And we did.
I did not get the memo.
I'm full environmentalist.
Sorry about that, Alex. Maybe tomorrow.
There would be a good day for a Christmas picture for T.I., except for we don't have the 2 main hosts. So
we'll go by the tree down there.
That's right.
And take a picture together.
All right. Yeah. Tim and Ed are away today. Your dad will be back tomorrow, Wesley.
That's right.
back in the chair tomorrow.
And I'll be out tomorrow, even though I'm usually on Wednesday. So
Yes, musical chairs.
that's right.
That's okay. It's a holiday week. It's Thanksgiving, and I tell you what, if you've been out at all, the shoppers have gone crazy, absolutely crazy. Parking lots are full. Black Friday is now 2 weeks. Starts 2 weeks before Black Friday.
Yeah, it does.
I am convinced.
It'll be in October before too long.
Yeah. Next year it's going to start on January 2nd.
I tell you what. And, people are of the mind. Now, I know a lot of folks are Amazon shoppers.
Sure, got a lot of that.
That has, but you know what? At least in the town where we live here in Tupelo, Mississippi, people are still very dedicated to going shopping at the brick and mortar stores.
They do. They seem like they can find. I guess I don't do that, so I don't know what I'd have to ask my wife. She does like to do that. I guess they think that there's a better deal that you're not wanting to miss or something. I don't know, because it's hard to believe nowadays that you still do that as much as what we're seeing because of online.
I think people just enjoy getting out.
Okay.
And they like kind of feeling the box.
I like getting out. I don't like the crowds.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I know we have it's a holiday week, for want of the better broad term, and normally news slows down, but that is not the case.
No.
We have a plethora of stories to get to today, so we're going to set you loose.
Yes, this one kind of sort of involves it does involve an issue that was an issue in this particular election, that being the issue of males and female sports. We've got a lot to cover here with this particular segment, and I have several sound bites, so bear with me here. But let's begin with this one. A judge yesterday rejected a request to block a San Jose State women's volleyball team member from playing in a conference tournament on grounds that other players argue that individual is actually a biological male. As we have reported on AFN.net, SJSU, or San Jose State University, has a male on the female volleyball team, and for several months now, a number of schools and their female volleyball teams have forfeited matches against SJSU because they have a male on the female volleyball team. And yesterday, a Biden judge ruled that player, who has played all regular season, can continue competing in the Mountain West Conference in the Women's Championship scheduled for later this week in Las Vegas. I reached out to a young lady yesterday who was a captain of one of those teams that forfeited matches against SJSU. Sia Leili is a captain at the University of Nevada, Reno, one of the schools that forfeited the match. And she said it was disheartening, and she really sympathizes with anybody that has to face this team going forward. Clip 8.
I think it's disheartening, the results that we're faced with, and I'm disappointed that these women have to take on that added pressure of having to face a male player. And I just think that it's not right that they're being put in that position. Taking a forfeit during the season is very different from taking a forfeit in the Mountain West tournament, because one loss means that you're out and you're out of contention. So I just wish the best of luck to these women who are in that position.
I tell you what, Wesley, this is disturbing on a number of fronts. You have now teams forfeiting, rather than in danger, female teams forfeiting in a league because they're scared that they're going to get hurt by this biological male on the other team. Added to that, members of the same team that this guy is playing on are also concerned. And we have another story that Chris is going to get to in a moment. But in broader terms, where is the feminist movement that say, we're out here to protect women's rights? They are silent.
When I first remember this beginning to be an issue on a national scale was the Connecticut high school female track. And at that point, obviously, our position hasn't changed. The Christian position hasn't changed. It's wrong for a man to compete in women's sports, bottom line, okay, for a variety of different reasons. However, for the general public, you could see that there was not a physical one-on. How do I put this? There was no punching. There was no harm done. It was just one was faster than the other.
Yeah.
Okay. But when this is now transitioning into sports where there's becoming like either whether it's kickboxing, whether it's basketball, and now volleyball, you're seeing not only like you saw in track where they were physically faster, stronger, and bigger. Now they're bumping. You understand? There's a physical contact.
Yeah.
And so now we're reaching a point where it's like you're seeing the tides turn when the general public sees how insane this is. Well, and also how unfair it is.
Yeah.
Not to mention what is more concerning. The most concerning for me is them being forced to share locker rooms.
Oh, yeah.
The privacy issue. There's multiple issues here, but the more they allow this to continue to go on, the more other women are going to get hurt. The more the other women are robbed from the opportunity to compete. And then back to the point that you just made about where's the feminist movement. I mean, that was the whole point of that was a big point of Title IX, the feminist movement, is for women to be able to compete in all sports at an equal level. And how far are we past that now?
Oh, yeah.
15 or 20 years, and here we're at full circle. We got men and women's sports.
And Alex, the defiance of basic biology here. You know, the fact that we're now paying attention to someone who says, a guy who says, I feel like a girl, therefore I am.
Right.
I mean, we've reached a level of insanity here.
Did you guys see several days ago the Democrat representative from Montana, Zoe Zephyr, said, and I quote, that transgender women, okay, now let's be clear because we have to, keep all this semantics in check. When you see the term transgender woman, that's really a male masquerading as a female. But Zoe Zephyr said transgender women are, quote, every bit as biologically female as cis women. Now, CIS, that's the Latin word for same. So whenever they talk about cisgender, that's really an insult on their part because, cisgender people are just not woke yet. But, I mean, to say that a man who identifies as a woman is, quote, every bit as biologically female as a woman, that's just not reality.
No.
That's craziness. But here's the thing, like to Wesley's point about privacy being ignored, injuries to true females being ignored, and just the emotional scarring of having to be in a restroom or a changing room with a pervert man. Here's the thing. Human welfare is subordinate to the ideology.
Yeah.
Well, I got to wonder, where is there, I'm guessing there has been. I just wonder when there's going to be this major lawsuit. I'm guessing there's some lawsuits out there. I don't know of
it
any.
Will happen.
But at some point there has to be a lawsuit. And either there has been and there's been a payout or something. But at some point there's going to be a major lawsuit where a biological female, wins multi-million dollars for being injured by a male.
Yeah.
And against
especially there's now a record of open concern.
There you go.
There are court cases that if this male on the other side of the volleyball net spikes and hits me and knocks me out and causes physical injury to me, yeah, you're right, there's going to be lawsuits. Now, Chris.
Oh, and in the privacy issue, too.
Yes. Now, Chris, there is another case that we heard about yesterday. This involves a high school girl playing, it's a track, she's a cross country runner who went to a school board meeting to express her concern, and we're going to hear some of that.
Yeah, high school student Riley Morrow is a student in the Riverside, California area, and she was on with Fox and Friends today to talk about this issue with her attorney, Julianne Fleischer. Here now is Morrow talking about sharing her thoughts on this situation, clip 9.
I have been around the females and just my team in general who have felt almost silenced to speak out about it because the whole LGBTQ is shoved down our throats. And going into a locker room and seeing males in there, I don't find that safe. It's not okay. I'm a 16-year-old girl. There's girls around me where we do not feel safe having boys in our environment.
I got to tell you, I heard the same exact thing in Mississippi about a year ago from Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon, two female athletes in the swimming sport that didn't want to have to compete against Leah Thomas. And they didn't just have to compete against Leah Thomas. They had to undress in the same locker room as a dude.
Yeah. Where's the uproar? You have her lawyer also talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is attorney Julianne Fleischer. She's representing Riley Morrow, who we just heard of there. She was also on Fox and Friends today. Clip 10.
Based on two causes of action. One is a Title IX issue, which resulted from Taylor, who is a junior at the Martin Luther King High School. She was on the varsity top 7, and when this transgender student transferred to the girls' high school, Taylor was removed from the varsity team, and in her place, this biological male was placed on her team. And then the other side of this is a free speech cause of action. Following Taylor's displacement on the varsity team, the girls wore shirts that said "Save Girls Sports." That's what the front of the shirt said. They wore it to their practice, and the athletic director told them that they needed to hide their shirt or change their shirts because that message, "Save Girls Sports," creates a hostile environment.
I got to tell you, if somebody wore trans rights or human rights, the school wouldn't have a problem with it.
Right, that political statement, not a problem. It's either it's either you choose whatever political statement you want to put on your shirt or no political statements. You can't be for one or not the other. What were you going to say, Frey?
No, and that's another aspect of this. These girls, what is it? Save girls sports.
Save women's sports.
Save women's sports, and they're right. They're out there fighting for girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, I think this had. I think Steve Jordahl was showing us some stats on this. I think the other day, this trans issue played a role in Donald Trump's victory.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
Yep.
It's on the minds, and here's the reason why. You have Democrat moms who have daughters who play volleyball.
Right. That's right.
And in track and then swim teams, and they're not going along with this nonsense.
No, they're not. You know, I'm thinking about this. Okay, I was talking about the issue when we were talking about college students, and I'm starting to get mad as a dad now that you're talking about high school students.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking that's closer to my kid's age. Then when is this going to get down into middle school?
Yeah.
If it's not already, I bet it already has in some ways. But that you want to talk about now I'm seeing myself walk out on the court going, okay, well, you know what? I identify because let's me and you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If this is what it comes down, I'm being sorry. I would never identify that way. But the idea is that there's going to be a dad out there that goes, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If either you're a dude, but you want to call yourself a woman, okay, well then I'll be a 13-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And you and I could play volleyball against each other because at some point you're going to get some dad out of the stands that's going to get on the court, especially when you start getting down into high school, middle school.
Yeah. Yeah, and Alex, we can't leave it up to the courts, unfortunately, because of this Biden-appointed judge yesterday in the San Jose case who's not willing to protect girls in the name of political correctness. It's going to take political leadership here. We've got to overturn some of these laws that are being misinterpreted and start protecting our daughters.
Exactly. And, what about the deafening silence from the feminists? I mean, where is Ms. Magazine or the National Organization for Women, standing up for the rights of females? Wesley, to your point, talking about getting down into high school, middle school, and below, this was in the news this morning. A New York elementary school is teaching a, quote, gender identity course to kindergartners, to kindergartners, and urging, it's Hillside Elementary in New York, teaching kids that they can pick their gender and that they don't have to go with normative boy-girl roles and dress. I'm going to say this. This is an example of fallen humans wanting to be their own God.
Yes.
Because, there's some things about life that the good Lord chooses. Where we were born, when we were born, who our parents were. We don't have any choice in that. And something else that we don't choose, God chose it for us, is our gender. And this is one thing that I'm so glad AFA is doing biblical worldview with Activate, that, maleness and femaleness is a wonderful part of what it means to be a human being. And I just think the defiance against this is one more attempt of sinners trying to be their own God.
Amen. Alex talks about Activate. That is your project.
Yes, that's something we've worked on over the last couple of years. We've got the Activate Worldview training course, the curriculum, which it covers 5 core issues of AFA, but we also have the summit that's coming up in the summer. So there's 2 different ones. Both of those can be found at activate.afa.net. That's activate.afa.net. Both you can find their training curriculum where we cover this issue and other issues that AFA covers regularly. We cover religious liberty, we cover life issue, we cover marriage and family, we cover the authority of Scripture, and we cover stewardship as well. And that training course is there, but also go check it out because there's a 20% discount for the next couple of months to sign up to come to our annual conference.
And it's so important, Wesley, and I hope folks in our audience, whether you're mom and dad, whether you're a grandfather, grandmother, this is going to hit your family at some point.
That's right.
You've got kids coming along, and what Activate is going to help you to do is how do you respond?
That's it. That's the whole thing. That's what separates it from all the other training courses, because there's a lot of really good activated biblical worldview training courses out there, but this has challenges and opportunities to practice out, to live out the things that we learn on this issue as well.
Yep. It's going to hit you somewhere along the way, folks. It is going to hit you, and you've got to start fighting this now. You got to start fighting at the local level, the school board level.
That's right.
Because that's so often, Alex, as you just pointed out, that's where this kind of demonic ideology is being taught when it's in our schools. You mentioned that example of an elementary school. A course.
And let me say something, guys, and I won't digress too far on this, but last week I was in a board meeting with a very, very major ministry, and we had several hours of interaction with some very godly attorneys. And I just want to say this to all the churches out there. Most churches, they'll have maybe their bylaws and as a separate document, their statement of faith. And we didn't plan this, so I don't mean to go off on a rabbit trail, but this is worth saying. I want to encourage churches out there, and I've got this from some of the best Christian legal minds out there. You need to put your doctrinal statement in your articles of incorporation. Because, see, LGBTQ trans culture warriors, they might say, gee, we want to rent your fellowship hall, or we want to rent your sanctuary. And if you've let anybody else use it, all right, what you have to do, put your doctrinal statement, and you need in your doctrinal statement to say human life is sacred, marriage is between one genetic male and one genetic female, gender, we are wonderfully and immutably made. And then you basically want to be in a position where all of your ministry as a church flows from your sincerely held biblical convictions. And guys, I'll throw it back to you, but churches, you need to preemptively, ahead of the curve, make sure that you're protected from the lawsuits that might invariably come along from the ideological warriors that are around us.
I will tell you, on a related note to what Alex just shared, this year at the Pray Vote Stand Summit, which FRC puts on and AFA Action sponsors, there in Washington, D.C., Macy Petty, another well-known volleyball player speaking out about males and female sports, she was on a panel discussion with various other people, including somebody from Concerned Women for America, and Macy made the point that we need more Christians and Christian schools to take a stand on this issue of males and female sports. Macy went on to share the story. I'm going to try to find the link on afn.net, but Macy went on to tell the story about how she went and confronted the president of a well-known Christian university, who Macy said, quote, would not look me in the eye when I presented her a petition on this issue, that being a petition to fight males and female sports.
Yeah, listen, folks, you can win these battles, and we have a story at afn.net right now. You may not have heard this, but Walmart announced yesterday that basically it's moving away from its DEI policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a big story. Walmart is, I still think, the world's biggest retailer.
One of the biggest retailers.
One of the, I guess, after Amazon now. But Walmart, they've had this diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, pro-homosexual, give favor to certain groups, all of that sort of thing. And this is a result, Wesley, really of groups like American Family Association and others saying, no, reverse racism doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't work. And your involvement, Walmart, in pride parades and that sort of thing, the vast majority of your customers don't approve of this. And you need to be aware of this. And all of this, a lot of it stems from, quite frankly, the Supreme Court decision when it comes to fairness with the sexes.
Yeah, it was Robert Starbuck.
Starbuck.
Robert,
Starbuck.
Is it Robert? Is that his first
Robbie.
Robbie Starbuck.
Robbie Starbuck, who has really helped out on this area as well, and I'm thankful for him for that. But you're right, now's the time to seize on this moment because we already had momentum before the election. We were winning many of the corporate and college campuses who were doing away with their DEI departments. So we're already making good headway on that area, which I wanted to remind our audience that we are winning things.
Yes.
And we're winning this one. But now's the time to put on to put fuel on the fire because as a result of the election, we're able to say now the majority of Americans have already voted against this as well. Not just that we have momentum, but now we have an election to look at as results as well. I want to go back for just a moment to something that Alex said, a question he had, and it was a good one. Where is all the feminist movements or activists on this? There was one that did not many of them, but one every now and then will jump ship or take a different angle, and that was J.K. Rowling, if you remember her. But we all know what happened to her, right? She got she was no longer invited to a seat at the table after she spoke out against it, even though she's far from being a conservative, even a moderate at best. And she spoke. So I was going to ask. I wonder. I can't log into my Twitter account. Has she commented on any of this recently?
I'll look it up.
Let's check that out because she always ends up having very good comments on this, and she is
courageous.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, our own Jenna Ellis will be with us, and we're going to be talking about some of President-elect Donald Trump's selections so far for his cabinet. There was the big controversy about Matt Gaetz, and you're all familiar with that. But there are others now questioning some of the ones that he has chosen. They may be in conflict with the values that perhaps you voted for Trump in the last election. So we'll be talking about that when we come back on this Tuesday edition of Today's Issues. Don't go away, folks.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
For life is more than food and the body more than clothing. The words of Jesus. Somewhere I ran across the story of a man who visited a certain home. The home wasn't much to look at, kind of run down, lacking even a good coat of paint. Outside the home in the yard, a little boy and his sister were playing. They were laughing, running, having a good time. The man surveyed the situation, summed up that the family wasn't very well off. He asked the small boy some questions about the home and family. The little boy told him that his father had not been able to work lately because of illness and that his mother had to care for the father. When asked about his patched clothes and his bare feet, the youngster explained that he had not had any new clothes since his daddy got sick. After a long period of conversation, the visiting gentleman found out that the little boy and his sister had not been to a movie or to get a cone of ice cream or any of the normal accepted childhood pleasures for several months. Wanting to say something to help the boy and his little sister face the difficult situation, the man spoke, and this is what he said. "It must be awful to be poor." Well, quick as a flash, the youngster answered back, "Mister, we ain't poor. We just ain't got no money." Now, how true, how eternally true. He was happy, He loved his sister. His parents loved him. He knew why his family was in the shape it was in financially, and he didn't complain. Money could not have bought what he had. How very shallow our judgments go sometimes. How very misplaced our values of riches. We think the only rich people are the people who have money. How miserable life would be if we had to face it on that basis. Being poor if we had no money. We've made a terrible mistake here, and we have passed it on to our children. That mistake is thinking that a person has to have a bankroll in order to be rich. What a poor, pitiful basis from which to judge richness. No man is poor who has character and purpose, whose life has been touched by the Galilean carpenter, who has love of God and love of fellow man. Every man is poor who lacks those things, regardless of his bank account. Whoever uplifts civilization, though he die penniless, is rich, and future generations will erect a living monument to him in deeds. A great bank account can never make a man rich, and often hides real richness from him. A man is rich or poor according to what he is, not according to what he has. We are important because we're God's children, not because of position or power or money. No man is rich who has a poor heart. One of the first great lessons of life is to learn the true estimate of values. How poor are those whose major goal is a growing bank account? A rich mind and a noble spirit will cast over the humblest person a radiance of beauty which most millionaires will never know. So don't pity the person who's lacking money. Pity only the person who is lacking in character and purpose, who rejects the Galilean and has no love for his fellow man. For they are the poor ones. But those who are the opposite are rich far beyond the expression and means of mortal money.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in hope of the glory of God.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And indeed, welcome back to today's issues. Tim and Ed are away today. Tim will be back tomorrow, but with me in studio right now is Wesley Wildman and Alex McFarland for North Carolina and Chris Woodward from American Family News. And joining us now is Jenna Ellis, host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning, right here on this here radio station. Jenna, good morning.
Good morning, and great to join you and the guys, and happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Have you got your turkey purchased yet? Have you?
You know, I know this is Thanksgiving heresy, but I am not a super big fan of turkey. I prefer, the honey baked ham. That's always kind of my go-to. So my family, we actually do both.
Oh, right. Well, sounds good. Sounds good. Hey, listen, if people thought that newsrooms could go to sleep after the election, think again. Along comes Donald Trump. And Jenna, do you think he had all of these names already selected and he's just of the cabinet post, all of that sort of thing? Was this all planned and it would be, I'll use the term, spewed out so quickly in the wake of the election?
Well, knowing Donald Trump and having worked for him, that would actually shock me if this was pre-planned. I think that that a lot of these were kind of, even if people had suggested this and there were a few names on the list and all of that, it's never a final decision until he actually announces the pick. And I think we saw that especially with the Attorney General pick of Matt Gaetz, which then he ended up withdrawing. And now Pam Bondi, who is a fantastic choice, by the way. I've known Pam personally for years. She is incredible. She is a really tenacious lawyer. I think she'll be excellent. But I think that the timing of all of these has been intentional because it hasn't allowed for the media and critics to really isolate just one pick and kind of go after them as if they had come out, with days and several news cycles of time in between. We have gotten this, really quick, just flurry of cabinet picks. But I will say one other thing too. Isn't it ridiculous and utterly absurd that Trump filled his cabinet before the state of California finished counting their votes?
That is an excellent point. Well,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I knew they were last, but the comparison between the two is. I'm going to have to take a minute on this one.
I think some of the ballots were carried in by carrier pigeon.
Okay, makes sense. That's
and
fair.
the pigeons got lost.
That's what happened. Okay.
All right, there's some names that are creating some controversy that go well beyond Matt Gaetz, Jenna. The Trump pick for Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRemer, I believe it is. She's out of Washington State. There's some controversy because she is like pro-union to the teeth.
Yeah, and the New York Post and their headline a couple of days ago was Trump's labor pick is quote unquote toxic, anti-conservative rhino who is too close to unions, critics allege, not serious. This is one pick that I think could have been better and definitely may prove to be a mistake. And so, it is important that we as conservatives and especially as Christians go through these picks and fairly critique whether or not they should actually be in this position because, and I was there during the first Trump administration, and I can truthfully say that even from my own observations and being very close to the administration, seeing how underserved Trump was by people who came in that he himself appointed that really didn't go along with his agenda and really didn't have the perspective of fulfilling America First as he wanted it. And so he was very much an underserved president in that way. And I think that he may be shooting himself in the foot in some ways by picking some of these individuals for these types of appointments, particularly this one with Lori Chavez DeRemer that really isn't well liked by conservatives and may have an anti-America First agenda in some respects.
Some people said it's kind of a quid pro quo in that he got the endorsement of the Teamsters Union, and this was aimed at making them happy.
There's probably some truth to that. I mean, certainly, we're all aware that there are, some of these backroom deals that go on, or there are some, well, thank you for, your loyalty and service. Otherwise, some of these, especially like the AFPI picks. So, for example, Linda McMahon being one of those who, she was one of the co-chairs of AFPI and getting the pick as education secretary when, and I think she'll do an okay job. I mean, if she shuts it down, then that'll be a phenomenal job. That's something Trump promised to do even his first term. But there were some other probably better picks that he could have chosen for that particular post. But it is one of those things where, maybe the earning of the position isn't so much on merit for the position itself, but rather for what else you brought to the table.
This is Wesley here, Jenna. There's several names that we've heard, over the last couple of weeks. You got Pete Hegseth, as you mentioned earlier, Pam Bondi. There's several that I've seen, and I'm okay. That's going to be fun. I think that could really help our movement. There's one here just recently, Scott Bassett, that I was going to get your take on. Now, this morning was the first I kind of looked into him, and I probably spent, 5 minutes or so and just kind of glanced. And I noticed
deep research there, 5 minutes.
Yes, right, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just did a 30,000-foot view, and he seems to be very successful in what he does. Obviously, he's a friend of J.D. Vance prior to being knowing Trump, and he's helped with Trump and his presidential campaign. But there was one thing, and I want to be fair here. He was connected with George Soros Fund. However, there are tens of thousands of employees, and there's also the fact he did quit. So he is not so committed to the point that he still works for them. But on the other hand, just seeing the name in general gives me great hesitation. But there's, you understand the dilemma there, but he's also good at what he does. So how much do you think his original connection has anything to do with his potential job, because he's been asked to be the treasurer.
Yeah, and that's a question and a red flag that a lot of conservatives are raising. And Scott Bessent did an interview actually before he was named to Treasury with Morning Wire from Daily Wire, and I was listening to that interview a couple of days ago, and he said as part of that listen, that as you mentioned, there were there were hundreds of employees. This wasn't, a personal loan or anything. And he basically distanced from it. And I actually raised this point this morning with my guest on Jenna Ellis in the Morning, Dinesh D'Souza. And he raised a really important point as well, that even though the name George Soros to all of us now is synonymous with, leftist, World Economic Forum, incredibly just terrible liberal leftist policy
or as
agendas.
Bad as it gets.
As bad as it gets. 10 years ago when this loan was given, he wasn't quite the same George Soros in terms of affecting, a lot of this as much as it was today. And so we do need to recognize that it is very different and see that, just a loan. I mean, Trump himself took a loan from George Soros. That's been well documented in reports. And clearly that hasn't affected, his policy making. And he's not a friend of George Soros. And so perhaps the same can be said for Scott Bessent.
Yeah.
And I was actually very convinced by Dinesh D'Souza's response this morning. And I thought that his comments on that kind of distance was fair. And I think for a lot of these, we do need to kind of step back and say, okay, well, we can raise concerns and we should. To me, one of the bigger issues that I know Walker has raised as well is that we need to also be advocating for the Trump transition team to put social conservatives into key positions, and maybe rather than criticize a lot of the current picks, advocate more for these positions that have yet been filled to be filled with conservatives and Christians, like especially in the HHS.
Yes, that's a good. That's what I was about to say, especially in the areas that they can actually influence social conservative ideas. Yep.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And there are still a lot of opportunities for Trump picks, and especially with staffing and with the people who will populate these agencies.
Alex?
Yeah, Jenna. Hi, Alex here.
Hi.
Trump, I think you probably would agree with this, that when he's got a pick, even if prima facie there's some red flags, he's got his reasons. And generally, I would say those are probably good reasons. I don't know. I think he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't really. Not a lot takes him by surprise. Would you agree?
Well, I would hope so, and I would hope that he's learned from 2016 when he came in as kind of the outsider, and Dinesh was also mentioning this morning, that he really didn't know how Washington worked, and he kind of didn't know the profound ideological swamp and just the rot that's in a lot of these agencies that I think he's a lot more aware of now. And so I do think he's going into a second term a lot more open-minded. And what's been really fascinating to me to see is that there have been very, very few picks from anyone who is a holdover from his last term. I mean, this is almost all a brand new team.
That's a good point. Yep.
Hey, Jenna, I got to ask that. Dinesh, he's great. He's been a family friend for 18 years. Did he mention his movie Vindicating Trump, which came out before the election? It was really aimed at trying to help people vote for Trump, and I'm glad he did it. But did he mention that movie in any of the research in your conversation?
He didn't on this particular interview. I know he's talked about that quite a lot on his show, and I haven't yet seen that movie, but I know a lot of my friends have and have spoken very highly of it.
It's fantastic. It really is. Just the degree to which Trump has withstood, media scrutiny and unfair, bias. But I'm glad you had him on. Dinesh, he's a public intellectual who is a national treasure, really.
He is. And, just personally as well, Dinesh and Debbie, his wife, really supported me throughout the whole lawfare and all of that. And and stood up for me against a lot of the lies that, were told, especially after, resolving the cases that I did. And so I really appreciate his friendship and willingness to, stand with me and just always tell the truth, because that's what we should be about as Christians and conservatives.
Jenna, one more question before we let you go. I'm going to lean into your legal expertise here. Tom Homan is President-elect Trump's selection to be border czar. And boy, he is talking tough when it comes
love it.
to deportation. And of course, on the flip side are these Democrat mayors and governors saying, you're not going to come into our state, you're not going to come into our city and arrest these illegal aliens. Where do you see that going legal-wise? Because there seems to be, state rights, federal rights, all of this. And Tom Homan, basically, in the latest edition of this battle already, the mayor of Denver saying, come on, I'm willing to be arrested. And Tom Homan this morning, in an interview with Fox, is saying, okay, if you want to be arrested, I'll go along with that.
Oh, yeah, it was great. He said, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail, and I'm willing to put him in jail. I mean, which was such a fantastic response. But, Florida governor, my governor, Ron DeSantis, who, I absolutely love. I think we need more governors like him. He posted in response to this, specifically the Denver mayor, he said local officials have no authority to obstruct a federal enforcement of immigration laws, and any who attempt such obstruction in Florida will be held accountable. And he's speaking just to Florida, but he's absolutely right on a broader scale. I mean, this is an issue that is constitutionally in Article 1, Section 8 given to Congress and the federal government. And of course, the rationale for that is that if California and Colorado and New York, have different immigration policies, then that will necessarily affect the rest of the nation. So we need one uniform rule of immigration and naturalization, which is the text of the Constitution that gives that subject matter specifically to the federal Congress, and then, of course, to the federal executive to enforce. And so Tom Homan and Governor DeSantis and all of the others, and in the federal government are, and of course DeSantis ceding to the federal government, are on very solid legal grounding to say, no, sorry, you can't just have these sanctuary city states. You can't obstruct the federal government from coming in and enforcing immigration law. Where I think the interesting legal challenges are going to be is if there is some kind of legal predicate for an immigration rule that Congress has devised, like amnesty, for example, that maybe is being implemented in a way outside of the statutory bounds that then has to be adjudicated by the courts. So that's probably more where the legal battle is going to be. But as far as the federal ability to actually enforce the law, that's completely a federal issue. It's not up to the states to determine what they're going to do.
Jenna, I think we can all agree it is going to be an interesting ride under a Donald Trump presidency once again.
Absolutely.
Hey, listen, we hope we have a great Thanksgiving, a good time, and enjoying that. What kind of ham was it?
Yeah, the honey baked ham.
Honey baked
ham. You can't mess that up. In fact, don't even try. Don't even try to cook one if you hadn't.
I'm pretty sure pork is going to be my cause of death.
Oh yeah,
my favorite of the meats.
Hey, what about the puppies? What do they get to eat for Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Oh, they definitely get some ham and turkey. They're fans of turkey, so they will definitely be in turkey coma. And if people want to see the aftermath of that, you can follow them on Instagram at The Adventures of Copper and Todd. Of course, they're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving with me and my family. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you. And I'm so thankful for AFA. And I just have to say thank you all so much for your friendship to me and my puppies and the family. I just love being at AFA and the ministry that we get to do together every day.
So let me ask you a quick question. What about your program over the holiday or over Thanksgiving break? You have a pre-record? You got a special recording or a rerun? What you got?
Yeah, so for tomorrow, actually, we have a special Thanksgiving episode that we're going to then re-air on Thanksgiving. Good. And it's just about the Christian view of giving thanks. And I have a couple of really fantastic guests, so you're not going to want to miss that.
Amen.
All right, Jenna, take care.
Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, bye for now.
Thanksgiving.
All right, Chris, we got a few minutes left before a news break. Go ahead.
Yes, Alec Baldwin. who likes to find himself in the news.
He shoots himself in the foot a lot.
He sure does. I see what you did there, as they say in Canada. But yeah, Alec Baldwin is in the news this time for making comments that basically Americans are ignorant and low information voters here. Don't take my word for it. Clip 6.
There is a gap, if you will, in information for Americans. Americans are very uninformed about reality, what's really going on. With climate change, Ukraine, Israel, you name it, all the biggest topics in the world, Americans have an appetite for a little bit of information.
Now, before we get your reaction, we can play some reaction from somebody weighing in on this. It's Fox News contributor Joe Concha who said this, clip 7.
If Americans need to be educated on anything, it's the fact that you shot and killed your director on a movie set and then claimed you never pulled the trigger when you did. Are we informed about that? Americans are actually more educated, Todd, on the issues than ever before. That's thanks to all the new options that we have, new news outlets available than ever before. I'm going to age myself here, but when I was growing up, we had 3 channels to get our news from here in the New York, New Jersey area, CBS, NBC, and ABC. CNN was only in its infant stages, and you had to have this thing called cable in order to watch that. Then in 1996, along came Fox News. And about a decade later, we had places like Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media options. So in 2024, we now have great podcasts. There are options now, and this is something that Alec Baldwin needs to come to understand, that legacy media doesn't have the monopoly over information anymore, and that's a good thing.
All right, Alex McFarland. Does it really matter anymore what the Hollywood elites think? Do they have any credibility?
Listen, to all of the Hollywood elites, from Alec Baldwin to Oprah Winfrey and all of the people, Whoopi Goldberg, The View, Joy Behar. Hey, listen, it's the sound of nobody caring what you guys think.
Very literally.
Hey,
yes.
So Alec Baldwin doesn't think we know much. I know not to point a loaded gun at somebody. Yeah, I mean, look, I've been to L.A., been to New York. I've heard them. They talk about flyover country. Now that is Middle America that they really look down with such condescension that we're unenlightened. You know, those folks need to get saved.
Yeah.
They don't know the Lord most times, and they don't know reality much of the time. But
anyway.
Wesley,
it also, it's not just the Alec McFarland, and it's not just the ladies on The View and others. It's the mainstream media, and there's been a wake-up call as a result of this election, especially the so-called legacy media. They thought they could just repeat the lies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and everybody would believe them.
And it has worked for many years. The biggest change, and I think what's helped Trump out a lot, along with many things he did well and trying to run or winning this past election, is he went on many different podcasts, large podcasters that had millions, in some cases couple of million followers, that bypassed, even went beyond Fox.
Yes.
He went on some pretty conservative, pretty hard right shows that were even further past Fox, and so I think that helped him out a lot. And that also showed that many people are looking for that type of content. They're looking for an alternative to the mainstream media, which between 80 and 90% is far left, and uninterested in having. I forget what it was, but we played a clip where it was on CNN or MSNBC, but they were having a discussion about using pronouns. And they ran one guy off the stage. They wouldn't even let him have a word because he misused. But he was on their team. But he was just making a point that other people done. And so the idea now is that on MSNBC and CNN and all these other ones, they're not even allowing a different alternative even to make fun of.
Right.
They wouldn't even allow it.
But here's the thing. That, we're seeing this now at the Washington Post. We're seeing it at the LA Times. The owners, the people who pay the bills, because they're losing so many subscribers, CNN is laying off people.
Yeah. So Morning Joe had to go down to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, that's amazing. But what's going to win this, Chris, I think, is the bottom line, and that's money.
Yes.
So you're losing subscribers, you're losing viewers, and the bosses at the networks, at these major newspapers are saying, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, every once in a while there would be a victory in this area. But now, really hardly a month goes by without seeing some gain in this effort. And I think it goes to show you, to Joe Concha's point, the reach that people have now to get their point across. It's not 3 channels anymore. It's a whole bunch of information. Talk radio, talk radio survived the invention of television.
Right.
Yeah. People still today are reached by a radio. Even though television's out there, you get your phone in your hand, all kinds of things. There are positives out there. We cover them a lot, AFN.net. Steve Jordahl does a lot of stuff in the DEI category for us, as does Bronson Woodruff and a few others. So do continue to check out our website as well as our radio newscast, because we are on top of these stories, and there will be more tomorrow and henceforth.
Hey, listen, go ahead, Alex.
98% of all Americans hear a car radio at least once a week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, radio is still very relevant. But what's really wild is, I don't know if you guys remember back in October, Hillary Clinton said, and I quote, she said, if we allow free speech on social media, we will lose control. I mean, we could do an entire show on the implications of that statement.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Podcasts and social media and many great conservative and Christian conservative voices out there on social media, they've made the traditional big 3 media, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but much, much less relevant than they were even a couple of years ago.
Now, to Alex's point, what's interesting here with Hillary and all these other people out there that have spent months, years really, trying to convince you that Republicans are Nazis and Trump is Hitler, they're the ones out there saying we have to squelch all this speech. We have to make new social media laws. You can't say that on the radio. It's misinformation. And they want you to believe the other guy's evil.
Well, I wonder. I've got a question. Wes, I'll throw it to you, Alex. Is Elon Musk going to buy MSNBC?
Oh, I don't. That's the first I've heard of this. Is that an option, or are you just speculating?
Is this breaking news?
NBC,
Wall Street Journal has
NBC has carved off MSNBC and a couple of the other.
Oh, yeah, CNBC and USA Network. The NBC Universal wants to kind of spin them off into their own.
Has carved those off, so they're their own entity. What would happen if Elon Musk actually purchased?
It would be the same. It would be the same impact in news media as it has been in social media when he bought X.
Yeah.
Or
Alex?
Twitter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something? And then, of course, you. Hey, listen, Elon Musk, could he afford them? Yeah.
He still had billions after he bought Twitter.
That's right. And
that would be like a pack of chewing gum.
We will wait and see. But you heard it first here on American
got me
Family
excited.
Radio. Yes.
That would be awesome.
All right, listen, much more ahead on this edition of Today's Issues. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, right after the news, Steve Jordahl will join us for much more news of the day.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio. When you hear us mention the AFR app, you probably think about your smartphone. We do have apps for Apple and Android users, but it doesn't stop there. If you have an Alexa, we've got you covered. But wait, there's more. Sorry. There's also an AFR app for Roku or Apple TV. So many ways you can listen to your favorite show, podcast, or music. Find out more at afr.net/apps.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The incoming border czar, Tom Homan, will visit the southern border today in Texas with Governor Greg Abbott as President Donald Trump continues to put immigration in the spotlight as he returns to the Oval Office. Bill Malugin has more from Eagle Pass, Texas.
Incoming border czar Tom Homan and Texas Governor Greg Abbott are both scheduled to arrive here at this Texas National Guard base. We want to take a look back at just how frosty relations got between Texas and the Biden administration. Border Patrol was repeatedly cutting the razor wire that Texas placed at the edge of the Rio Grande here in Eagle Pass. Texas said that was destruction of their state property. They said it was a violation of state sovereignty, but it certainly didn't stop there. The Biden administration Border Patrol even brought out an industrial-grade forklift to raise up the Texas razor wire here in Eagle Pass and get it out of the way. That move infuriated Texas. They sued DHS over it, but the Supreme Court ultimately sided with DHS and said they could remove the razor wire.
Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst will chair the newly created Senate Department of Government Efficiency Caucus, working with the newly created department to cut government spending. The senator has written a letter to the department's co-leaders Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy about ways to cut spending. She says there's a lot of low-hanging fruit.
We can simply start with a lot of the underutilized and vacant government buildings that we have. Now, there's a lot of folks that telework. If we're not going to use those buildings, we need to get rid of them.
A California female cross-country runner is speaking out after her school allowed a male athlete to compete on the girls' team and share the same locker room. 16-year-old Riley Morrow addressed the Riverside Unified School District Board.
And going into locker room and seeing males in there, I don't find that safe. It's not okay. I'm a 16-year-old girl. There's girls around me where we do not feel safe having boys in our environment.
Attorney Julianne Fisher is filing a lawsuit against the Riverside Unified School District.
Based on two causes of action. One is a Title IX issue, which resulted from a Taylor, who is a junior at the Martin Luther King High School. She was on the varsity top 7, and when this transgender student transferred to the girls' high school, Taylor was removed from the varsity team, and in her place, this biological male was placed on her team. And then the other side of this is a free speech cause of action. Following Taylor's displacement on the varsity team, the girls wore shirts that said "Save Girls Sports." That's what the front of the shirt said. They wore it to their practice, and the athletic director told them that they needed to hide their shirt or change their shirts because that message, "Save Girls Sports," creates a hostile environment.
A former Florida Attorney General thinks Pam Bondi would make a great U.S. Attorney General.
Bill McCollum was the Attorney General of Florida prior to Bondi holding that position. McCollum says Bondi has a lot of strong conservative values that he thinks are apparent, or she would not be where she is today.
I think that she will do a good job.
When McCollum was Attorney General, Bondi worked and lived in Tampa, where she focused on major felony murder trials, prosecuting a number of them over a period of time.
I always saw her as a very pleasant person to talk with, etc., but everybody always who worked with her in any capacity in the criminal justice system just said she's tough as nails, which is probably an apt description in that regard. So I think she has several qualities. One is she's personable. She makes a good appearance. She's bright. And at the other hand, she has a reputation for being a really tough prosecutor and having values, too. I think that's very important in this, too.
I'm Chris Woodward.
AAA is predicting the busiest Thanksgiving travel weekend on record. Brooke Taylor has more from the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport.
We have millions coming to the airport and expected to hit the road, see family and friends this Thanksgiving week, hopefully get some good meals. Well, they say that they're going to break records because AAA says that about 80 million people are going to travel. Most of them are going to travel by car. They say drivers should get a slight break on gas prices. Well, in Boston, some travelers are already facing some major holiday hiccups. Over at Logan Airport on Monday, an American Airlines plane and Frontier plane clipped wings at a gate, canceling the Frontier flight to Dallas.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
As an AFA insider, you're part of a community that stands strong for biblical values and works tirelessly to influence culture and policy with truth, advancing biblical values and ensuring a stronger, upright America for our families and future generations. AFA Insider, formerly AFA Alert, informs you first about AFA's mission and aiding the church in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Sign up to receive AFA Insider emails at afa.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR.
And welcome back. It's the Tuesday edition, Today's Issues. Tim and Ed are away. Tim will be back tomorrow. Ed and Tim both back on Friday for trivia, but joining me in studio to help us through on this last half hour of the Tuesday edition, we have Wesley Wildman. Wesley, welcome back.
Glad to be back. What a wonderful 1 hour of radio. I mean, I'm talking about content-wise, busy, and I thought we did a good job handling everything. So I just want to brag on ourselves because we won't get bragged on when Ed and Dad
after
get
this
back.
half hour.
That's right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right, even after this.
And that voice is that of Steve Jordahl.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, Steve is back. And Alex McFarland in North Carolina.
Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody.
I tell you what, it is not a slow news week as we demonstrated in the first hour, and there's more to come. And there is breaking news. Before coming into the studio, I put an Associated Press story on our website, afn.net. Here was the headline: Trump threatens to impose new tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. Now, it mentions in that story, this came through his Truth social media, this announcement, either late last night or earlier this morning. The Associated Press guy says he immediately got a call from the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. I can only imagine, because the threat was like a 25% tariff on the goods coming in from Canada and from Mexico. So he and Justin Trudeau talked. I'm sure they came to some kind of agreement. Fox News is now reporting in just the last 3 minutes that Trump has also apparently got a phone call from the new president of Mexico. Trump is saying he's putting his threat of that tariff on hold because Mexico is now saying we are going to do everything that we can to put a stop to the invasion that's going on our southern border. So you talk about, now he's president-elect. He's not in the Oval Office yet, and he's affecting policy already.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of winning.
Already.
Yeah.
So Alex, once again, just the presence, and he's putting out a challenge, and already other countries are responding. It's amazing and I think, Alex, honestly, it's because of his first term in office, his first 4 years, when he said he was going to do something, he did it.
Yeah, one of their slogans was, promises made, promises kept. And, I mean, think about this, folks. 54 days to the inauguration, nearly 2 months, and already things are happening that are redounding to the good of the American people.
Yeah.
And so, we have a lot to praise God for. We really do. This Thanksgiving, as we really be intentional about, praising God, I think the prospects for the future of our country look good. It's always a battle. The George Washington, his first words after being inaugurated, George Washington uttered these words: "The sacred fire of liberty has been entrusted to the American people." And so, I thank God for our liberties, our country, but it's entrusted to us, and we have to, as Benjamin Franklin said, not only enjoy the fruits of freedom, but we have to tend the tree that bears those fruits. And so preserving America and thanking God for it is everybody's privilege. But, hey, good things are happening, aren't they?
Alrighty. All right, Steve.
On the first day that Donald Trump came into office in 2016, he set out an executive order that said that the military will no longer be accepting transgender soldiers. The ones that are there, they can stay, but we're stopping the flood in of transgender soldiers. Well, the Times of London is reporting that day one of his second term, every transgender soldier in the military is to be discharged. They're out. It's about 15,000 active service personnel who Times reports are transgender.
There's 15,000?
That's what the Times is saying.
Wesley,
surprise.
admirable, but that's going to create quite a bit of controversy.
Yeah, Will. Yeah, I guess so. On one side, on our side, not so much, right? But that's going to be the fun part. I was telling my brother before we came down here. My brother's office, Walker Wildman, is across from mine, or right beside mine, and we can talk from our desk just about. And so we were talking, and I was going over. We were talking about just chit-chatting about some of the picks that he's had in cabinets leading up to the program today, getting his thoughts, my thoughts, and remember I mentioned earlier the 5-minute, 30,000-foot view of what I realized about Bissett. And in that conversation, I said, yeah, but while there's still some question marks about this one or that one, I said, one thing I'm excited about is Pete Hegseth. And when he gets into office, what's he going to do into his cabinet position? And so I'm excited about that. And so I'm guessing, Steve, am I right, that Pete Hegseth will be the one pulling that trigger?
Well, he serves at the pleasure of the president.
Like right. Yeah, and so I'm guessing he'll be the one that actually falls.
He'll be putting feet to the executive order.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well,
I tell you, on Washington Watch last night, which is heard here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time, they had a guest on talking about what needs to happen in the military to get the, as we call it, the esprit de corps back in our military, because we know what has happened to recruitment there. And one of the things is that there's certain things that need to be corrected. And one of those is the impact that it had on soldiers who refused the shot. They were, if they weren't thrown out of the military, they were denied advances. And one of the things that has to happen is they have to get back pay for being punished for not taking an experimental drug. So I am hopeful that amongst the many things that have to happen in the military, I am hopeful that will be corrected, Steve.
There will be a lot of corrections. Donald Trump has pledged to kind of uproot the deep state. Here's the other thing about the Defense Department, though, and Department of State, as well as Marco Rubio. We are in some fraught, perilous times right now. The next 50 days, the axis of evil, as they're calling it, I guess, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, their days, they see the new sheriff in town is coming. And on some levels, they've already responded positively by, contacting or being in contact with Donald Trump and kind of going back. They see the strong man there. They're going to be cautious. But on the other hand, they got 50 days to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
There have been talks. Putin was talking about the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Most people think he wouldn't do it. But he sent that message the other day when he launched a nuclear-capable missile into Kyiv or to Ukraine. My prayer is that we survive these next 50 days without a big incident, because we are more on the edge right now than we realize. I think most people realize.
I think that is the case, and once again, Alex, we know that. During the recent campaign that President-elect Trump said when he came into office, he would resolve the Ukraine conflict within a matter of weeks. And a lot of people are wondering how he's going to do that, Alex.
Yeah, it really does remind me about when Reagan was inaugurated in 81. He won in 1980. The inauguration was January of 81, and the hostages in Iran that had raged on for several years, the hostages were released that afternoon.
Yeah.
And because, as several have said, Reagan and Trump, there's an adult in the room. And, I really do predict that there'll be a de-escalation in Ukraine and Russia. But we do need to pray for peace in the world. And my goodness, North Korea, Iran, Russia, we could be seeing nuclear devices detonated very easily. And so that's something nobody wants. Guys, one thing I was going to say, did you see the story yesterday, Steve, maybe, CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations? A judge has ordered that they have to disclose their sources of funding. This was in the news yesterday. It's interesting. CARE, the guy that leads CARE, I don't know that I can pronounce his name. It's like Nawad, the man that leads the Council on American Islamic Relations, has earlier this year sent out a happy Hamas greeting celebrating the October 23 attacks on Israel. But they have gotten, it's rumored at least, that they've gotten funding from terrorist groups in the Middle East, and they, pitch themselves as a peaceful group promoting understanding and things like that. But I think it'll be interesting to see where their money has come from.
Now, when would that be released? Did they?
I don't know, but the judge yesterday, it was November 25th yesterday, said that CARE has to disclose their sources of funding and their donors.
Good.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
Steve, next.
That's good.
All right. This was kind of expected after the Supreme Court ruled on the president's immunity, but Jack Smith, the special counsel who was bringing the charges against Donald Trump for the January 6th riot at the Capitol, has dropped the cases.
Mm-hmm.
He will no longer, the president will not be, the case is dismissed. However, he dismissed the case with prejudice, without prejudice, meaning prosecutors could charge Trump again after he leaves office in January 2029. And believe me, with Jack Smith and Tanya Chutkan, the judge here, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, well, Wesley, that's the same kind of attitude that they have in New York, the prosecution there. They said they would delay the sentencing. However, they reserve the right to bring it back 4 years from now.
Well, yeah, my thing is, like, either he did wrong or he didn't. And if he did wrong, you shouldn't delay consequences. You wouldn't do that for anybody else. That's kind of a bizarre thing. That's why I don't think it'll actually happen. But not to say they wouldn't try, but 4 years from now, you're giving Trump's defense attorneys more ammunition to say what I just said, and that's it. Well, if he did something so bad and so wrong, why did you let him go? Why did you let him go consequence free for 4 years?
They are constitutionally prevented from pursuing a case
right?
while he's president.
Yes. Alex, there's talk about new sheriffs in town. If Pam Bondi does become the next Attorney General of the United States, perhaps there is some action that she can take against these rogue prosecutors.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder what the statute of limitations is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a statute of limitations. There's also, double jeopardy. I mean, if he's been exonerated, I think his defense team could argue that in practice, if not in fact, he has been, de facto exonerated.
I don't know if non-existent crimes have a statute of limitation.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And even Judge Judy, she's on the People's Court, and I don't know where she stands politically at all, but she was in the news about 2 months ago saying this is ludicrous. These cases are baseless. Why don't we spend our time, resources, and taxpayer dollars doing better things than these frivolous lawsuits frivolous charges against then candidate Trump?
We're talking about things that may happen after Trump becomes president, but also, guys, we have to be watchful of what Joe Biden is up to over the next 54 days.
Do you really?
Yes. There are a couple of stories that are on our website, afn.net. Here's the headline, one of them. Biden this morning announced a $6.6 billion loan to a struggling electric vehicle company. This is a company, it's Rivian Automotive. They were going to build a big plant in Georgia, but they had to stop everything because everybody now knows sales of electronic vehicles have really dwindled. I think Ford stopped production on a plant and others. But this is a vehicle that I think its price starts at $70,000, something like that. This is a vehicle that they have trouble selling already. But Joe Biden is announcing this morning a $6.6 billion loan so they can resume construction on this plant in Georgia. It reminded me, Wesley, of Barack Obama when he was president. He gave a huge, I'm not sure if it was a loan or a grant, to a solar panel plant.
Just looking up the name of that.
Cilantro.
Cilantro.
What was it?
I don't know. I'm looking it up, but cilantro's not it.
Yeah, not it. Something similar. He gave a huge grant or loan to that company, and that company went under. Taxpayers lost all of that money. $6.6 billion loan to the AP describes it as a struggling company.
So what would
Fred.
be? Go ahead.
Well, I'm a car guy. I love cars. I'm really into cars and trucks, and I'm not a fan of EVs. I don't own one, and anyway, but I have followed the Rivian story for several years.
Okay.
Because it really has been the polar opposite of like Tesla. Tesla is very successful. Okay, October 23rd of this year, one story about Rivian. Now listen to this. They have gotten more OSHA safety violations than any other automaker in the last several years. Employees injured. Now listen to this this story. Rivian plant is a hellish nightmare of safety violations, says an OSHA report. And since 2023, over the last 21 months, they've been cited at least 16 times for, quote, serious violations. And then there are parts and troubles and software. And one friend I have bought one of their trucks, and he said it was the worst purchase I've ever made. It's a mess. But why Biden is giving $6 billion of taxpayer money, I mean, this is just not responsible at all.
No, Wesley, it's the ideology problem. It's climate change. This is all part of his climate change agenda. But he's not playing with his money. He's playing with our money.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking at the vehicles here, and I'm showing. I guess the like you said, the price starts at 70,000. How much I'm not sure exactly how many miles do we usually get on a gas vehicle. I'm guessing it's fairly comparable.
About 400 per tank.
Okay, so that's fairly comparable. But to your point, I don't mind. I've always said I don't mind if somebody in a capitalist society wants to create a company that has electronic vehicles and they think they can make it great.
Sure.
But to your point and all of our points, and the most frustrating thing for us is the fact that when the government gets involved in either mandating, which is what they're wanting to do with their new Green Deal and the climate change movement, and that's one. And then number two, in addition to that, along with other stuff, they're wanting to spend our taxpayer dollars to help fund something that is not in the best interest of the American people, but two, is a failing product. It's not even like it's making money. It's not even like it's a good investment.
No,
they lost $6 billion last year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty large number.
Well, I think that the AP story says it's not clear whether this loan can go through all the hoops that it needs.
It's gonna, yeah. That's what I was about to say. Is this likely to even be an issue?
All right. The company that Obama gave money to is Solyndra.
Solyndra. I was close.
You were bad.
I was close.
Not cilantro, but Solyndra. And I just got to say, the Rivian cars, I'm looking at them too. Man, they're ugly compared to like Elon Musk's.
All right.
Cars.
Steve, I've got a. There was another announcement from the Biden administration this morning.
Oh yes.
Okay. If you have been diagnosed with obesity, the headline is Biden wants taxpayers to fund weight loss drugs for obese Americans.
What?
This is taxpayers' money, so you can go out and buy Ozempic and a few of these other drugs that you see advertised on TV.
What motivated this?
What motivated this? That's an interesting question.
Talking about him to get involved in that.
Well, a lot of Americans, and this is not a good thing, have been diagnosed as being obese. Now, Alex, health officials play a lot with numbers, and I think sometimes people diagnosed with obesity are not that bad.
Sure.
But there was a response, I guess, to the idea of this some time ago from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., He says we would get more bang for our buck if the government purchased gym memberships rather than this, because these drugs are extremely expensive. Was somebody saying this morning, was it $1,200 a month or something?
Gracious.
I know it is. It is expensive.
But that's probably without insurance. That's probably the case.
It's somewhere around that. But here's the problem with the gym memberships. It would be just as bad as the other wasteful things, because everybody would go for 4 times and then they'd quit. They wouldn't go again, and you have spent the money.
Yeah, when it comes to this, you have to have personal responsibility and some accountability.
Yes.
But taxpayer dollars paying for pills.
Yeah, and Alex, to Wesley's point, at one point do people have to take responsibility for themselves instead of the government coming in and saying, oh, we'll spend money on you so you can continue to do what you shouldn't be doing?
Well, and, a whole nother issue about, weight loss drugs. And there, as many people know, there are drugs that were not initially created for weight loss, but they found out that they're used for weight loss. I mean, there's data about damage to kidneys and liver and pancreas. There's no panacea. I mean, getting in shape, and I've been in shape, I've been out of shape, working on, I'm in a cycle now of exercising, watching what I eat, and trying to get back in shape. But here's the thing. We have to own our own decisions, and there's this element of personal responsibility and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming, maybe now's the time that we decide. I'm going to
or like what I would do, just start right after.
Right.
Okay. Start right after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then came January.
That's right.
When we make those resolutions, but
the New Year's resolutions.
Joe Biden, it seems to be intent on his way out of office. He is going to what he wants to do is Medicare and Medicaid to pay for this.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's about a mentality there of government here is here to take care of you and to spend other people's money on ways that, Wesley, you could correct yourself.
Yeah, I forgot which of the Hollywood. I'll look it up. Just this morning, there was a Hollywood actor that said that basically, now this is on a different issue, but he was criticizing Biden, saying he was about to take us into World War III. But the point I would make, if I could find the name of the gentleman, is that there's a lot of people on the left and a lot of Democrats that are just not happy with Biden's final decisions here, with his final, couple of months in office here. And this is just one more thing that I could imagine that they're just like, why are we doing this?
I got a question for you guys, if I have a second. Who's running the government right now?
That's right. I was thinking that. I just didn't know what.
Who's been running it for the last 4 years?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, we know Kamala Harris has been in Hawaii.
Well, she couldn't run the government when she was tasked with running the government.
No. And Joe Biden, we understand, after forgiving the turkeys yesterday.
Yeah. That didn't go well.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's gone on vacation now. We don't, he can take a vacation. That's just fine. But it's pretty scary with everything going on in the world right now that we don't have leadership.
Now, I wanted to say this. I was waiting to the very end.
Okay.
I'm going to task AFN. Next time I'm in I won't be in tomorrow, but next time I'm in TI, we got to have some Tom Homan clips.
Tom Homan.
Yeah, I got to have some Tom Homan clips. I don't care if you go back 3 or 4 or 5 years to find some. That guy gets you fired up. I think there's going to get something done down at the border.
Tom Homan for you, John Kennedy for you.
That's right.
From Louisiana.
All right. Yes, of Louisiana, my favorite senator. All right, folks, it's been great to be with you today. My thanks to Wesley and to Steve and to Chris and to Alex and to Brent.
Jenna.
And Jenna, too. All making this show a great show today. Hey, listen, you're the folks that we're here to serve, and it's great to have you with us, and we're back tomorrow. So do stay tuned.